How's your mic? Let me see.
I think we're good.
Okay, great.
Now I have to live up to that. Right, so we'll try to stay on the quasi-intelligent side. I'll commit to that. It's a service level, and we'll go from there. I am Michael Dillon. I've got quite a few years in this industry. Pretty much my adult life I've spent either working with government, selling to government, or working in government. So through that, and through the lens that affords me, I've been able to take an interesting perspective on a lot of the things that all of us are involved in out here in municipal wireless. So to that, I was tasked with going through a few things. And Gary, I'm going to see if we roll this presentation over. So I'm going to get
Lift yours up.
There we go. Excuse me just a moment. Anyway, I was tasked with coming up with a few things to describe to a lot of folks, not just folks in rooms like this, but also within IBM, to the executives, exactly what it is that we're talking about when we say muni wireless or municipal broadband or digital communities and all the other names that this is known by. And in doing so, came up with a few different things that I'm going to share with you this morning. The way we're going to run through this particular segment is that I'm going to do that overview, then hand it off to my associates, Ash, Tony, and Ken, who will take you through various different segments relative to strategy and getting started in this, business models, and certainly applications. But going back to my story, one of the things that we were tasked with very early on was trying to get our arms around what this whole thing was of digital communities, or for that matter, municipal broadband, why it was important, why anyone would spend their time this way, let alone launch these initiatives. And we kind of distilled it down into two different areas. One was the government usage model, one that was near and dear to my heart, and certainly an area that we had some fairly significant growth in. And then, of course, the public usage model. Now, from early on, we really thought that it would start off that governments would embark on this type of an endeavor, and that they would go back and inventory all the things that they had available, all the different applications, solutions, personnel, and a variety of other things that they could bring to the table and mobilize in an ubiquitous environment. And that through that, either starting off with something as small as hotspots, or growing out and going straight to infrastructure level plays for things like traffic control systems, that they would probably launch these initiatives, and that riding on the coattails, either in excess capacity or through some other means, that they would offer service to the community, and that would more or less be kind of a windfall position. Well, what happened instead was we saw a dramatic launch straight into internet access. And I think the reason why is because the internet itself has proven to be such a significant application, not only from the utility of allowing us to get back to back-end systems, for that matter, to do everything from banking to run our companies and work from home, but it also afforded us a tremendous amount of opportunity for entrepreneurial revenue generation. And we've seen a great deal of that clear through the dot-com bust. And then, of course, emerging out of it as a phoenix. So moving on through that and taking these two models, one of the things that we're kind of looking at, what we think is going to start happening here soon, is they're going to start to merge more. New technologies coming, a variety of different things that are enabling the appropriate provisioning of this particular medium is going to enable the public usage model and the government usage model to merge a little bit more. Now, working for IBM is rather interesting, because a lot of times I make these presentations to other IBM executives and try to explain this, and trying to explain digital communities and municipal broadband has been a task. We always learned that IBM executives are IBM executives because they could spell IBM. And that was a good starting point. So I said, I have to distill this down to a level that they can understand. And effectively, we're starting off with cities, with all their mounting assets, and this is what I tell them, this is what I show them. I show them how the communities bring these assets that they've already invested in. Fixed, sunk costs that's already done, be it roadways, electricity, utility assets, mounting assets. We fly in the access points. All of our equipment providers out there and the service providers provide those accesses. And at that point in time, when you couple it with a long-term commitment to improvement, you get a digital community or a municipal wireless. Now that is really just the start of all of this. And as we get into that starting point, this is really where we can bring the broad depth and breadth of solutions that are out there to the market. We bring them in there so they can do things like workforce mobility. They can do things like mobilization of their workforce. They can do things like meter reading, cybersecurity, and a variety of other things that can play into that market. So using this as a backdrop and just a big animal picture, if you will, of why and how this is important and how the constituents come together, this has resonated with some folks, and hopefully it'll resonate with you too a little bit in thinking in terms of how to describe this. Notion was born from these pictures that they used to make where they'd show the aquatic life under the ocean, and then you'd go up to the top layer, and then you'd see all the flora and fauna above. Well, this is kind of the equivalent of that for digital communities. It's what's under the street, it's what's in the poles, it's what's on the buildings, and certainly what we bring to bear as industry. So what I'm going to do is walking through that, I'm going to pass this over, and we're going to start off and let Ash tell us how we're going to get started on this, going through the strategies. And Ash, if you'll come up, I'll step down and let you go through your presentation. We'll wrap back around again and finish this up. Ash Dyer. Need a mic?